and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
I have a super interesting podcast for you today. Are you into video games, changing the world, Dungeons and Dragons, and all of that jazz? Well, on today's podcast, I have Henk Rogers. He is an international gaming phenomenon to game-changing initiatives, Dutch-born entrepreneur and innovator, and he continues to pave the pathway in regenerative homes for our planet. He started off in the video game space. He got a degree not only in computer science, but also minored in Dungeons and Dragons in Japan. Along that, he built a number of video games. I think his 20th was a tiny little game called Tetris. You may or may not have heard it. From that path onwards and outwards from there, he created a mobile company. He had a heart attack, and then he found some epic missions. One of the missions being is the biggest mission, and I've had a lot of heroes in this podcast with epic missions. This is the biggest mission I have ever heard of, and I don't think it can get any bigger. So without any further delay, I'd like to welcome Henk Rogers.
Hey. Thanks for having me.
Hey. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on and rap with you. We just had a couple of quick talks right before we jumped into this meeting, and you were saying some incredible stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm trying not to have a podcast before the podcast. Let's get into this, and I'm just really excited to have you on. So just to kind of recap, as I don't believe that my intro did you justice. Can you give me just a bit of your background that kind of led you up to where you are today?
Yeah, so you could say I'm back in New York now, by the way. I went to junior high school and high school in New York. I'm originally from the Netherlands. My Dungeons and Dragons period was in Hawaii. I went to University of Hawaii. That's where I majored in computer science and quote unquote minored in Dungeons and Dragons. And then 6 years later, his personal computer came out in Japan, and I wrote the first role-playing game in Japan called The Black Onyx. And it was the #1 game in Japan in 1984. I self-published, so I ended up with a publishing company. Then I got into publishing computer games, published a whole bunch of games. Used to go to travel around the world looking for games to bring to Japan. Am I frozen on your screen?
No.
Okay. It's just only mine. That's fine. So, yeah, and I found a little game called Tetris at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in 1988. 1989, I went to the Soviet Union to get the Game Boy rights and license them to Nintendo. And the movie about that story is coming out in March.
It is?
There's a movie about me going to Moscow and getting the Game Boy rights, starring Taron Egerton, who plays me. It was, pretty big deal. It's a Hollywood production, $80 million production about me going to get the Tetris rights. Anyway, fast forward, I end up partnering with the owner of, or the creator of Tetris. He's my partner till today. I started a mobile phone game company when mobile phone games became a thing in the U.S. in 2002. Sold that company 3 years later. Had a heart attack, found my missions in life, bought a ranch, and now I'm on my missions in life.
I love it. Oh, it's so fun. It's such a fun, passionate journey of what you like. I mean, all that stuff is when you've talked about is very eclectic, cutting edge. Because at the time right now, like if you think of those role-playing games, common nowadays, Tetris, really common. But you're at the interesting bleeding edge of this technology, even going into the mobile games when that just became a thing. Are you still at the edge of technology? Is there any of the technology that excites you these days?
So I'm in, as part of my mission #1, which is the end use of carbon-based fuel, I ended up being in the energy storage business. So I'm in the bleeding edge, as you call it, of energy storage. I'm doing non-toxic, non-flammable batteries, for example.
Yeah.
And we're working on software that manages, microgrids, and it basically manages the energy. That's how you become more efficient. The problem with most renewable energy is it's intermittent, like wind and solar, they're intermittent. So you've got to capture it while it's going and then use it when it's not going. That means an energy storage. So that's the thing that's still expensive. Wind and solar have gotten cheap. Energy storage is still expensive. So we're working on that.
Oh, that's awesome. And with the energy storage side of things, are these like hydrogen batteries, or like what does it look like to be able to store the?
So if you look at at my Tesla, your Tesla or your phone, they're lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese. Nickel, cobalt, manganese, that's a volatile combination. If you puncture it, overheat it, overcharge it, it'll catch on fire. And this is not a fire. They're like fireworks. In other words, there's nothing you can do to turn it off once it starts. It creates its own oxygen.
Exciting.
The stuff that I'm using is lithium ferrous phosphate, iron phosphate. And there's absolutely nothing you can do to it that would make it catch on fire. And they last twice as long. They're just a little bit heavier and bigger, so they're not going to appear in cars and phones. But for stationary storage, like homes or businesses, it's just fine. So that's the business I ended up in.
Yeah.
And it's called, by the way, it's called Blue Planet Energy.
Blue Planet Energy.
All my companies are Blue Planet something or other. I get that from Sir Richard Branson, who calls all of his companies virgins, something virgin, or virgin something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing that you've been able to come along the path, and then now what you're talking about is a mission that could help save society, and that's one of the biggest challenges we have right now. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges we have is consuming energy because we are dependent on it, and I feel sometimes people feel somewhat powerless because like, what can I do? I'm just one drop in the ocean. How do I make a difference? Right? There's no hope, and I think that people feel that sense of hopelessness, like playing a video game that doesn't give you any feedback. Right? There's not that. What would you say to people about the energy and things that they can do, and what about that would give them some motivate them to take some sort of action?
Okay, so when I decided to end the use of carbon-based fuel, I decided that I lived in Hawaii at the time, so before I ask other people to clean their room, I have to clean my own room. And I knew nothing about energy or sustainability or any of that stuff. I just read an article in the newspaper after I had my heart attack, and it said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to kill all the coral in the world by the end of the century." And like, you got to be kidding me. No, we're not. And so what's causing that is carbon dioxide being absorbed into the ocean. What's causing that? We are. And so, okay, fine, let's stop doing that. So end the use of carbon-based fuel. So I set about doing that in Hawaii, created the Blue Planet Foundation. We tried everything. I mean, I had no idea what to do, how to go about doing this. I just went about doing it. And about 6 years into it, we managed to pass a piece of legislation. We're the first state in the country to have a mandate of 100% renewable energy by any date. Ours was 2045. It was sort of a negotiation between us, who wanted 2040, and the politicians who were ready to give us 2050. We settled at 2045. Fine. 2 years later, California copied us. So they have 100% by 2045. And I mean, like, if you ever think, like, I worked hard to get Hawaii to do it, and then California flipped, that's magic. If I'd had started in California, it would have been a huge lift. But I started in Hawaii, which was, for me, because I started from zero, a pretty big lift. 12 other states and territories now have a mandate of 100% of renewable energy, including New York and Illinois. So we're covering already 51% of the US population with a mandate. Now, here's the deal. If you don't have a deadline, nothing's going to happen. You can spin wheels, and it's like, we're doing our best efforts, this and that. But if you don't have deadline, like if you're not going to get your ass kicked, if you don't have that report in, by the end of the semester, fail. Okay, guess what? It's going to get done. You need that urgency. And, on the issue of hope, people ask me if I have hope. And I say, no, I don't have hope. I have determination. There's a difference.
Yeah.
It's like you fall off the side of a boat. You're in the water. It's sink or swim. You're not going to be like, hope isn't going to freaking help you. You have to be determined. You have to save yourself. You have to make the decision, I'm going to survive. and do whatever it takes for me to survive. And that's what we all need. We just need to make up our minds that we're going to survive this. That's it.
Absolutely. It's that decision. And what it sounds like is you have a history of doing things that people think are, not common, right? We'll just put it that way. Can you tell me about a time that, where I call these threshold guardians, where you try to do something like, I'm gonna do this big epic thing, and then something really kicks you in the teeth and goes, do you really want to make it happen? Because I think I'd love to get any kind of story around that. You're talking about a time where you had to persevere through something that was a challenge that really kind of, because this is ingrained in a mindset.
Tons of things, but here, and this is part of the movie, is so I got wind that somebody else was going to try to get the Game Boy rights. And so I got on, 2 days later, I got on a plane to Moscow with a tourist visa. Now, this is like going to North Vietnam and trying to talk to somebody in a ministry. It's highly illegal. Wow. You're not supposed to talk to anybody. Russians aren't supposed to talk to foreigners at that point in time. And so I went there on a tourist visa. It took me a couple of days to find the right door. I hired an interpreter and got to the door, and she said, "You can't go in there." I said, "What do you mean you can't go in there?" "I can't go in there." And she said, "You're here on a tourist visa. You don't have an appointment. You have to have credentials and you have to be invited." I said, "You know what? I didn't come all this way to stand in front of a door, fly back to Japan to get a goddamn visa." And so I said, I'm going in. "Are you coming with me?" And she said, "No, I can't." I said, "Okay, you stay out here. I'll be back." And I walked in through that door. And, that door could have been a door to a gulag.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I was doing something very, very naughty. I wasn't supposed to talk to anyone. I was asking the people that I was going to talk to also to break the law by talking to me. Yeah. And we did all that. This is right at the onset of glasnost and perestroika. So it was a very exciting time.
Wow. And so from that, going through that door, did that lead to the opportunity of getting the rights to the Game Boy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I stood in the lobby, and there's a guy with a window with the official KGB whatever crap on his head, and waiting for me to go over to him and give him my credentials, which I didn't have any. So I just stood there and waited till somebody who spoke English came to me and talked to me. And I said, "Hey, I'm here to talk about the Game Boy rights to this game that I'm publishing in Japan." And guy comes down the stairs a little while later. He says, "Who are you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm the publisher of your game in Japan." And he looked at my box and he said, what machine is this for?" I said, "It's for the Nintendo. It's for a console." And he goes, "We never license the console rights to anyone." And I'm going like, holy shit. Not only am I like breaking the law by busting into his ministry, but here I am. I've got a product that I'm selling in Japan, and I borrowed $2 million from the bank using my in-laws' property as collateral to make cartridges. So yeah, I was in deep kimchi, but I pulled it off. I said, okay, I'd like to come back tomorrow, because I didn't think that the right people would be in the room. "Come back tomorrow and talk to somebody about these rights." And he said, "Okay, come back tomorrow." So that, when he said come back tomorrow, that was the official invitation in my mind. He said, "You come back tomorrow." I said, "Fine, coming back tomorrow." That's when I met Alexei. And if you want to know the rest of the story, watch the movie.
Watch the movie. I love it. That's awesome.
Tetris. It's called Tetris, and it's coming. It's on Apple. Apple funded a movie.
And so it'll be coming on the Apple TV.
March, who knows? I mean, if they want an Oscar for anything, they need to premiere it in a movie theater somewhere.
Yeah, but right now the online digital space, it is the movie theaters these days. So many people, it's way more common that way, and so that's awesome. That's incredible. And then how did the movie come about to be? That seems...
I think the origin was there's a documentary on the BBC called From Russia with Love, which somebody watched and they say, well, this would make a great movie, and they picked up the option, the movie, and this is already years ago. And the original director was going to be Ron Howard. I was in a room with Ron Howard talking about about the movie. But then the guy who optioned it, he was like another Epstein. He went down with the Me Too movement, and so the option kind of floated around and finally got picked up.
Wow.
And, so yeah.
What advice would you give to, say, young entrepreneurs or game producers or anybody that's in the space that are trying to make the moves that you've made in the past?
Don't be afraid to fall off your board. I always compare it to surfing.
Yeah.
You basically, every surfer fell off his board 100 times or 1,000 times for the times that he actually surfed. And so that the experience of getting up and paddling, then getting up and surfing, you got to do it. You got to try it over and over again. And if you want to surf bigger waves, you got to go in when there's bigger waves. You got to surf the bigger waves. Now, business opportunity doesn't come every day.
Yeah.
So there are times when there are waves, and there's times when it's flat. Don't try to start some business, flat. You gotta recognize. But in order to be able to catch that big wave, you have to have fallen off a couple of smaller waves before. Unless you're freaking Zuckerberg or there's like outliers, or Musk, who never makes a freaking mistake. But what I'm saying for ordinary humans, try it, fail, get up, try it again, fall off your board. Like I failed probably 5 times for every time that I had a success, maybe more.
Wow. And that's the thing. I think oftentimes for myself, I realize that like there's this quiet desperation of wanting to do something, but the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of what people are going to say, and then you don't take that step, or I don't take that step, and then there's that regret. So I love that giving yourself permission to be able to take that brave step forward. Small note on this topic. I'm gonna ask you a piece of a question specifically for myself on things, and we're gonna jump back to your journey because I want to talk about some other things, but just taking the moment. So I build virtual reality video games and transformational things that help people get better. I've done it for nonprofits and incarcerated kids and all this other jazz. And I'm releasing a game this on Friday. I'm submitting it to Oculus, Meta, whatever you want to call them. It's wacky and wild and different. It's one half first person arena shooter, one half meditation app. So you shoot your friends in the face with a rocket and then you go and meditate about it in a very interactive virtual reality kind of way. So it's wildly different than anything else. And there is a chance that I can fall off my surfboard by coming out with something like this. What advice would you give me around this topic?
Yeah. Don't expect to hit a home run every time. Basically, and I got this advice from somebody else in the business, just try to hit a single. Yeah. If you hit a single, somebody will make a mistake somewhere and it turns into a home run, and you won't know which single. So rather than swinging for the wall and just like trying to kill it, just swing at it and don't don't exert yourself. just be chill about it. And either it happens or it doesn't. The Greeks had it right. They said, it's not about you. The gods are the ones who are playing this game. You're just a pawn. So if you make a mistake or if it didn't work, then you can say, well, the gods, they screwed up. It wasn't me. I'm just the avatar. I'm just the player character in this game. There's somebody controlling me in the back. Yeah. So, and that's what VR is all about. Is there's somebody out there controlling Neo, and you don't even know it.
Yeah. Have you had a lot of experience with virtual reality? Have you?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
Can you talk about it?
Hasbro tried to come up with a VR machine in the early 90s. And this is back when we were developing on it was before things were done on Microsoft. I forget what the name of the machine was, but anyway, we developed a bunch of titles. We mean the industry. Yeah. And it was supposed to be for a headset, but they never came out with it, so it kind of died there. Gosh, what's the next time? But I actually have my own VR company called Avatar Reality. Nothing to do with the movie Avatar. My opinion was that the environments were getting better, but the NPCs were crap, and I think they still are. They're sort of empty hulls. It's funny because my granddaughter called her father an NPC, and he called me an NPC, a non-player character. So what I'm trying to say is, you're not really present. You're just acting like you're present, but you're not really present. And it's like, oh wow, an NPC.
It's brutal. Yeah, it's so funny.
It's brutal, yeah.
Sometimes people get that at, like, when you're working at like a store or something too, where people's like, "Hi, next." They're just tuned out, right?
Yeah.
There's no depth to the person.
There's no depth. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, and it's not that hard. Hello, are you kidding me? We have all this AI stuff going on. We could have NPCs that could totally fool you into thinking they're real people.
Yeah. Well, you ever thought about, like, because you role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, virtual reality, there seems to be this desire to go into this future, this Ready Player One type of future place where you can lose yourself. And what do you think is, what do you think is the gap that's going to get us from where we are now to that type of reality?
Well, okay. So I've always maintained that my character in a game is the dumbest character in the entire universe. But why? Is because if I walk away from the keyboard, he or she just stands there and gets their ass kicked by the NPCs. Why can't he lift a sword or do something to defend himself? Why doesn't he have any semblance of brains? So what I really think that the future is that you have a character inside of a virtual world, and that character, when you're not controlling him, is moving around and doing his own thing, having his own adventures. And then when you come back, you can say, hey, what happened? And then he can tell you, oh, yeah, I went there and I did that, and so on and so forth. Then you have a conversation. Then the character doesn't become an empty shell. It becomes a character like Hercules and Zeus, or Hercules and whoever, one of the gods that Hercules wasn't being controlled all the time. Every once in a while, God would say, hey, Hercules, I think you should do that. Go take out that dragon or whatever. And Hercules had free will. He could say, hey, screw you, I'm not doing that. That's bullshit.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. It makes me think about almost like if you had you have your Henk Rogers NPC AI running around for you and you're coming back and you're powering. Maybe you're just influencing, like, hey, you should probably go left. And it looks back, he's no, I'm gonna go right, bro. And ends up on his own adventure.
So you get to be the little character on the shoulder trying to influence him. Maybe you have to convince them. So you can't I'm not gonna die for you. I'm sorry. This is I'm in a game here. I have my own. I have a girlfriend.
This might be a game for you, but this is my life.
Yeah.
Have you had do you have a mind-blowing VR experience at all? Is there because this is going into one of the groups with like 44,000 VR users. Has there been a moment in VR that you tried out that kind of shifted your perspective at all?
I hate to say this, but not yet.
Okay.
I'm totally convinced that it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. I haven't had my Neo moment where I'm like, shoot, am I really here? I haven't had that yet. So, and part of it is a lot of the VR stuff. I mean, I hate to say this, but including yours, like you shoot your friend in the face, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's not really what I want to do in real life. So why would I want to do that in VR? And I went through this period where I was like, okay, so all these things that we're creating, there's some version of hell. Kill, 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 die. Kill, 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 die. Like if that was your life, it would suck. If that's all you ever got to do is shoot people and then die, and then get up and shoot people and then die again, that would be really a boring life. So, until VR gives us the opportunity to do some of the more interesting things that we could do in a virtual world, possibly things that we can't do in the real world because we're just not smart enough, or we're not powerful enough, or we're not fast enough, or we can't fly, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. All these things are possible in virtual reality. So what computers are supposed to do is make us 100 or 1,000 times more powerful. And so what do you do with that power? Do you use it to kill people, or do you use it to do something really interesting? Explore the fourth dimension, God knows what. I mean, we have to invent these things. And, so I really think that we're right at the very beginning. We're still at the beginning where kids are running around with little guns and bang, bang, you're dead, that kind of thing. We get over that. And now there's lots of other things that are so much more interesting than that out there.
It's interesting when you talk about that. I often think of this podcast is dedicated to heroes of reality, life, technology, and business, and power. Heroes have great power, but so do villains. And it's just, do you use it to serve yourself or use it to serve others? And what you're talking about there, if you think about video games, it makes you more powerful. And then what do you do with the inside the video game? Do you use it to be the villain of the story? Do you use it to be the hero of the story? And it's really interesting to think about and reflect. But does seem to be a cycle of awakening, evolution, whatever you want to call it, where people go along the path. And it is fun where you get those jump scares and first person zombie shooter games. And then you get bored of that and you're looking for things that are more advanced, more interesting, more reflective, those aha mind blowing moments in VR that shifts your perspective. And I think they are out there along the way. It's just waiting until you find it. One of mine was coming across another human for the first time inside of virtual reality and realizing that they're a person. Now, it was in a giant toy room demo, so I just ended up throwing a bunch of crap at them and giggling the whole time because it was fun. But the question is, like, yeah, if is the purpose of video games, like, what is the purpose of video games? Is it just for play? Is it to learn and grow? Is it to make people become more powerful? Do you have a thesis around this?
Yeah, of course. So if you ask what is the function of sports, it's like a lot of wasted energy that makes you physically fit and all that. And if you go back in time, like the 1800s or the 1900s even, you probably were preparing yourself for a lifetime of physical labor, because a lot of work was physical labor, moving stuff around the world, physical labor. So a sport was something really good that you did as a teenager, which prepared you for a lifetime of physical labor. But here's the future. The future is not physical labor anymore, because physical labor is done by machines. The future is about mental labor. It's about creating things or doing things that are probably not real. And so by playing computer games, we are preparing ourselves, kids are preparing themselves for a world that they're going to live and work in the future. So, I mean, they're preparing them. We don't realize it. And when parents say, oh, we got to keep our kids from playing too much games because blah, 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 actually, they're actually preparing themselves for a lifetime of having to do that.
It's interesting. So because we live in a digital era, digital play prepares you for the digital world.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this whole new advancement? I mean, I'm sure you've heard about ChatGPT, OpenAI, all that fun stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about when I talk about that at all?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. It's fascinating. I love it. It is a really brave new world, and it's really scary. If the AI starts taking over creation or creative stuff, what is there left for us to do?
Well, and that's what you're talking about right now, right? Because you said labor used to be really expensive, and with tools and all the things that we've created, labor is cheap, almost free to a degree with automation and that kind of stuff. Mental work was what we're preparing for, and that's what triggered me when you're talking about that. You talked about play is preparing us for this mental work in this digital space. But I've seen with people that one of the common things when I go to show off this AI chat GPT to people and I show them some of the things it can do, the first question is like, is this going to replace me? Like, how do I not make that happen? And so what does that look like? What are your thoughts around the concerns that a lot of professionals have, whether it's creative or, professional work? Like, what's the next bastion for mankind?
Well, yeah, there is no how can I say? You can't say to AI, you can't do that because AI is not listening to you. It's just like try to tell your kids, don't do that. Guess what? They're going to do that. So yeah, I mean, where does that end? And that is a scary thing. Well, for me, um, I'm mission number 3. Mission number 1 is to end the use of carbon-based fuel.
Perfect.
Number 2 is to end war. Number 3 is to make a backup of life by going to other planets. And I think that one is an interesting one, because when we go to other planets, we get to create all kinds of new societies. And I give you an example of a new society. Burning Man is a new society. I go to Burning Man. I've been to the 11, now 12 of the last 14 burns. And people go there and become different people. You could go to another planet, become a different person, and have a different kind of society where there's no money, where there's only gifting, or whatever it is. And so we can create other planets with other societies, and with or without AI or whatever. And it's very possible that AI takes over this planet and squashes us. But if we're everywhere, then it won't. So we need to get off. Some of us need to get off planet.
So absolutely. I have a follow-up question. I'm going to ask you this other question. I want to jump, and then after that, I'm going to ask you about your 4th mission. But before I open up that can, I want to talk about this. Have you talked to Elon Musk at all about the backing up planets or backing up life by going to?
I know I've talked to his people. The SpaceX guys.
Yeah.
I'm friends with number 2, who's also a burner. I asked him, so does Elon have any interest in building a moon base? Because I feel the first logical step has to be building a moon base, because it's right next door. It's only 3 days away. Whereas Mars, 8 months, and then you have to wait 6 months for the Earth to come around before you take the 8-month trip to come back. Oh, that is a long ass time, 22 months. And resupply, forget about it. Your next resupply is 2 years from now. Whereas the moon, we can send people all the time. It's only 3 days away by 1960s technology. So he said that we can land you 150 tons on the moon and fly back without refueling. 150 tons. And I said, has anybody come up with a 150-ton payload? No. That means no one's good plan to build a moon base, because that's the only thing you need 150 tons for.
Wow.
So, I mean, we really need to get off planet to have that backup. And if we learn how to live on the moon, then we can live on any planet. The moon is as hostile as they get. By comparison, Mars is much nicer. There's actually a little bit of atmosphere there. It's mostly carbon dioxide, but it's still a little bit of atmosphere. The moon, you got nothing, zero. And once we discover exoplanets, meaning planets around other stars that look like they have water, guess what's going to happen then? We are going to figure out space drive. There's no reason for us to develop, warp drive or whatever it is right now. But if we see something out there, I mean, it's like knowing that Hawaii exists. Hey, now we got to build a boat that can actually get us to Hawaii. That's
you need that flag in the sand, right? You need that. You need that goal to hit to drive you to where you need to go. I think are you fascinated with the James Webb telescope at all? I don't know because I know that's.
Are you kidding me? It's so amazing, the stuff that's coming back from James Webb. And you would think that it kind of eliminates the earthbound telescopes, but no, that's not at all. I'm good friends with the guy who director of Keck, which is the largest telescope in Hawaii in the world.
Yeah.
And they were talking. They have different wavelengths, first of all, that they perceive. And so if James Webb, the other thing with James Webb, to turn that thing, it takes fuel.
Oh.
And there's no refueling that thing. So it only has what it has. So if supernova goes off in that direction and James Webb is looking at that direction, they're not going to like use up a crap load of fuel to turn that thing around. They carefully plot where it's going to look so that they use as little fuel as possible. So they pick those targets and moves little by little. Earth-based telescopes, they can just look instantly at something new. And so it's, yes, you can pick an object, and get a wonderful view of it, but you can't just flip around and say, hey, there's a collision happening on Jupiter. Oh, we want to see it. Nope.
So we have the world's greatest magnifying glass or telescope, but we can only point it in one direction right now, or limited scope.
Kind of. I mean, the more fuel you waste, the fewer things you get to see.
Yeah. It's a balance. There's no free lunch, no free energy.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not without the whole fission thing going on. So
there you go. It's still it's still what do you call it? Volatiles that we use.
100%. So I want to talk about your fourth mission. Can you share with us what your fourth mission is?
Yeah, my fourth mission is to find out how the universe ends and do something about it.
To find out how the universe ends and do something about it. I just want to. Okay, please continue.
Yeah, so I mean, like it's and I have, the other three are kind of logical, and this one's not logical because like, what the hell can we do about, and the end of the universe? What can we do about actually ending the use of carbon-based fuel? But actually, we can, and then we don't know that we can. But maybe this mission came to me, some alien race somewhere, basically sent me telepathically this message saying, hey, the tipping point is coming soon. You guys better get some technology together and so on. It's the focus of my first game, by the way, the Black Onyx. So the Black Onyx was that some alien race had figured out that the universe was going to end in a big, a big collapse, and because there was too much mass in the universe.
Yeah.
And so what they did was these great engineers and some alien whatever brought together all these black holes and made a super, super massive black hole that contained a quarter of the mass of the universe. And they built a shield around it, a gravity shield. And that basically stabilized the universe so it would last for, forever. I mean, this is what we try to do. We try to live longer. We went from dying at 30, 40, 50, 60. Now we're dying at 80, 90, 100. And so it's all about expanding our lifetime. But the lifetime of the universe, it's not only about us, it's about everything in the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it. So, and how to do that? I have no idea.
I love that you said it though. And I love how you said it. And I didn't know if that was something along your path that you said, okay, well, I've accomplished all these big things, so I'm just going to set a ridiculously big goal because I've come so far along the path. But you had that way back when you made the role-playing game, which is incredible. And was that mission, was that one of the first, that idea came into your head?
It wasn't a mission. It wasn't a mission back then. Like I found all my missions after I had my heart attack. That's where they came in. I was like, I got to do something before I die. What is it? What do I have to do? And what is it that's going to piss me off if I didn't do something when I actually die? That's where those came about.
You said something really interesting. We actually met at Burning Man. You were giving one of the talks. I thought it was inspirational. And you said something about your missions that made me kind of stop. And you said, you're like, I maybe pick this last mission about finding what the universe, how it's going to end and do something about it, because maybe it just makes every other mission small and more achievable because it's so big.
When you think really about it, it's like we look at things like end the use of carbon-based fuel or end war or make a backup of life, and we think, oh, those are just big unattainable goals and all that. They make, we look at them and they're so big. But I mean, it's just like us thinking, oh, the Earth is so big and it's like infinitely big and we can just do whatever we want. It doesn't have any repercussions. It is not infinitely big, and whatever we do does have repercussions. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can stop having those doing those things that have those repercussions.
Mm.
And, yeah, you've got to take those things in perspective. In terms of like geologic time, the time that we've been on Earth, means humans, is tiny. And then if you look at technology, the modern world where we created all this garbage, that's really, really tiny. It's happened in a very short time. And if you just get things in perspective, you realize, hey, this is not the first time we've had a mass extinction. Look what happened to the dinosaurs. They all went away. So we have examples in the past of mass extinctions. This time we're the reason. And it's pretty stupid because it's a self-destructive reason. It's like we are the ones calling rock from space to wipe us out. It's like, why the hell would we do that? And it's mostly because we're ignorant and we're thinking about our own tiny ass lives. I think everybody, if we all started thinking a little bit bigger and realize that the earth is not infinite and it's something that, it's like our backyard, and that cleaning our backyard isn't that hard after all. One person could clean their backyard and be done with it. And cleaning up a city would require, if everybody cleaned their backyard, we'd clean up the city in no time.
Mm.
And if every city cleaned up their backyard, we would clean up the whole world in no time, if that's what everybody decided to do. It's a decision. It's the decision that we don't make. And it's the determination that we don't have.
I love it. Yeah, it's that whole society's a race between utopia and disaster. And as we can all kind of choose to go one direction versus the other, then we could all very quickly, how quickly everything changed with COVID, right? Everyone decided everything shut down, and then because nobody drove, a lot of the air got cleaner. We all made a group collaborative decision, mostly based out of fear and our own self-preservation, to shift. And so if we can make that shift before it becomes too late, then we save us from ourselves.
Is one of us lemmings going to say, hey, you know what? That's a cliff. Let's not run towards the cliff, guys. What the hell?
There's something shiny. Go for it. Yeah. So, question for you. I mean, you've achieved a lot. You've been on an awesome journey. But you still have these huge, major missions, bigger missions than I've ever heard of before. At least all stacked together. For yourself, by setting these missions and after the heart attack, and what is the holy grail for you for all of this? Like, it gets you up and gets you moving. What if you hit that flag in the sand? What would make this all worth it for you?
I guess at the end of the day, if I left this place in a better shape than I found it, like, that would do it for me. That's basically what it is. It's on a bad trajectory, and if I could turn that trajectory around, if it starts sailing in the right direction or instead of the wrong direction, I will have achieved something. We will have achieved something. This is not something that I'm going to accomplish, by the way. This is something that we, meaning all the people of the world, are going to accomplish. This is not even if I had all the power in the world, I was freaking Superman, I still wouldn't be able to do it. There's just too much. It takes all of us to do this.
That falls right into the second question I have about this. The question about this is, so being able to basically reflect at your deathbed or right before you go up or whatever it might be, being able to reflect back and saying that I made a meaningful change. I was able to kind of help nudge into the direction away from catastrophe, away from the cliff's edge. What is the dragon? What is the thing seemingly so big, so huge that it's going to take a radical transformation to overcome?
Yeah, so the dragon is us. The dragon is the people in the world who are making things worse, and I'm one of them because I fly planes, and I eat fish or whatever it is. I mean, I'm part of the problem. We're all part of the problem. That's the dragon. But what we need to do is first of all, the dragon has to become a little bit more intelligent. collectively. So we collectively have to become more intelligent, not as individuals. As individuals, we have very smart people, but as a collective conscious, we still suck. The collective conscious thinks about things like war and countries and religion being more important than anything, or race or gender, or all these waste of time things that we think are so important, when actually our survival is what's important. People say save the planet. The planet's going to do just fine without us. And we know it, and so maybe intrinsically we realize, hey, we're kind of bad for the planet, so the planet's probably better without us, and that's why we're on this sort of suicide mission for mankind. I say no, we can actually be good for the planet if we just wake up. And this is, a lot of people talk about indigenous wisdom. This is total indigenous wisdom, because that's how they survived, is by getting along with nature and harmony without like upsetting the balance of nature. And here we are, we're just like totally, well, where we are and where we're going, and we all have to do our part. And that's the point. You say, is, what can we as individuals do? And you say, well, we can't do anything. And the answer is, if we keep on doing what we're doing, then we're the problem. If we stop doing or go in a better direction, or become just more efficient at it, or it takes very little to actually make a real change. So if we all stop using fossil fuel for energy and transportation, that would be a big step.
And what you're talking about, this is this thing of humans are amazing when we work together, and we're also super selfish. And it's finding that balance where we can all have the collaborative benefit and also have it individually benefit us as well. And that's what we're trying to get past our own individual selfish needs for the collaborative benefit of mankind.
You have to think about it. It's not about me. It's about we.
Yeah.
Everything is about we. We don't. Me doesn't exist without we. Yeah. And if we make we more important than me, then we have a chance.
Yeah. Then we have a chance. And then we are both the villain and the hero of the story.
There you go.
I love it. And Henk, I know you got to boogie very quickly. We're coming towards the end of the time that you have allotted. This has been awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to let people know before you tell them how to find you, or maybe find anything you want to point them in a direction of?
Well, okay. So my mission was, when I found it, was to end the use of carbon-based fuel. It's one of my missions, my first mission. I would like every one of you and your listeners to find a mission. It doesn't matter what it is, but say, I am going to do this in my lifetime. Doesn't matter what it is. Put that goal out there. Give yourself a deadline, and then start working toward that mission. But keep that mission in the back of your mind. And you can pick your own mission. I'm not asking you to pick mine. You have to pick up the mission that you think, the thing that you think is wrong with the world. Go fix that. And if you have money, spend your money on that. And if you are smart, use your intelligence on that. And if you have time, use your time on that. So we all have our part to play.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, it's just, what can you do with what you got? And if people want to find out about your foundations, I know you have that. How do they do that?
So my newest foundation is called the Blue Planet Alliance, blueplanetalliance.org. And basically, it's all about getting countries to have mandates. We flipped so far this year, Palau, Tonga, and Tuvalu. But we want to flip all the rest of the countries in the world. So if anybody out there has any idea about how to do that, ping us at blueplanetalliance.org. The alliance is the alliance of everybody in the world who's working towards fixing this planet. That's the alliance. So find your own mission, and you're part of the alliance. So all the NGOs that are joining us, we sign an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. We say that we agree to work together to create a world in which humanity and nature live in harmony. That's the ultimate goal.
That's a beautiful. Yeah, that ancient wisdom with the use of our technology, bringing it all together. I love it.
Oh, we're going to win this battle, by the way. We are totally going to win this. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to not only survive, we're going to thrive, and we're going to build back nature. We're going to build back the Garden of Eden. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, it's beautiful. Henk, thank you so much for your time, brother. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. I appreciate you, all that you do, the missions that you keep, and for inspiring other young adventurers on their own personal journey. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Today. I'll see you on the other side. Take care now.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening.